What would you do if the key to your front door suddenly felt like it belonged to a stranger's house? That's how it was for me, standing in the cold Chicago wind, the metal biting into my palm. The life I had built with Sarah, my wife of 10 years, was a lie. It started with the scent of unfamiliar cologne on her coat, a scent that clung to the fabric like a ghost. Then came the late-night texts she'd angle away from me, the screen's glow, casting a guilty light on her face. I saw it all from the crack in the bedroom door, my heart turning to ice. The woman I loved was a phantom, and her secrets were about to drag me into a darkness I never knew existed. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. The first tangible piece of evidence was a receipt. Tucked into the pocket of her jeans, a dinner for two at a place on Rush Street we'd never been to, dated on a night she was supposedly working late. My hands shook as I held the thin paper, felt heavier than a tombstone. When I asked her about it, her eyes went flat and cold. "Are you checking up on me now? I went with a colleague." "You're being paranoid." The word paranoid was her new weapon, a shield she used to deflect any question, any doubt. She wielded it with surgical precision, making me feel small and foolish. Her and him, this colleague named Mark, they must have laughed about it. I could almost hear their smug whispers in the quiet of our apartment, a home that now felt like a stage for their private little play. I was the fool in the audience, the only one who didn't know the script. My breakdown didn't happen with a shout. It was a quiet internal collapse. I was sitting in my car in a parking garage on Lower Wacker Drive, the city's hum a distant drone. I had just seen them, Sarah and Mark, walking out of the Drake Hotel, his arm draped possessively around her waist. She was laughing, a genuine carefree laugh I hadn't heard in months. It wasn't for me anymore. In that concrete tomb, surrounded by the smell of exhaust and dampness, something inside me shattered. The loyalty, the love, it all bled out onto the grimy floor. When the grief subsided, something else took its place. It was cold, sharp, and clear. It was strategy. The broken man was gone, and a ruthless architect of revenge was born. I started gathering proof. Every text message was screenshotted and backed up to a secure cloud. I hired a private investigator who tracked their movements, providing me with time-stamped photos of their hotel check-ins and clandestine meetings. I recorded phone calls where Sarah, thinking she was talking to her best friend, detailed her contempt for me and her plans for a future with him. The most crucial piece came from a deep dive into Mark's life. He wasn't just a smug affair partner. He was a man with his own secrets. A little digging online revealed a messy, unresolved divorce from a woman in another state, a woman he was, according to public records, still legally married to. Paid for a certified copy of their marriage certificate. It was the ace up my sleeve. The trap was set for our 10th anniversary party. It was Sarah's idea, a grand affair, to project an image of a perfect marriage to our friends and family. She was radiant, moving through the crowd, accepting congratulations, the perfect, loving wife. Mark was there too, introduced as her work mentor. He shook my hand, his grip firm, his eyes filled with a patronizing pity. He thought he had one. The party was in full swing when my lawyer, a man I'd had on retainer for weeks, walked in. Wasn't alone. With him was a shaken-looking woman who introduced herself to Sarah's parents as Rebecca, Mark's wife, and in her hand she held a marriage certificate. The music seemed to die. Sarah's smile froze, then crumbled. She went completely numb, her eyes darting from the certificate to Mark, who had turned a sickly shade of pale. My lawyer then handed her the divorce papers I had filed that morning, along with a thick binder. "That," I said, my voice low and steady for only her to hear, "is a complete record of your affair, including financial statements showing the thousands you spent on him from our joint account. It's all been submitted to the court." Her world, so carefully constructed, was publicly and legally obliterated in a single, devastating moment. Her parents stared at her with horror, our friends with a mixture of shock and disgust. She was utterly, completely ruined. Now, the apartment is quiet. The silence is heavy, filled with the ghosts of what used to be. Sometimes, I trace the faint outline on the wall where our wedding photo used to hang. She got nothing in the divorce, and he was ruined by his own bigamy. But there's no victory in the silence. There's only the cold, haunting echo of a love that was never real. The end.